When Jesus was here on earth, he told many stories. Those stories are called parables. And he was teaching us more about who he is, how he wants us to live, and what the kingdom of heaven is like. And Jesus used everyday items that were around the people so that they would understand what he was saying. So let's take a look at what Jesus said. One of the first items Jesus used was seeds, and he was speaking to farmers. And so every time you see a seed, you can remember this parable, that God's message of salvation is like a seed, and he wants our hearts to be ready, like the soil, to receive his message and allow that message to grow inside of us. Jesus told a parable about a great banquet. That's a great feast. Imagine a lunchbox filled with all the best goodies, or you're sitting around with your friends at a party, and you can remember that Jesus told us that the kingdom of heaven is like a great banquet, and God has invited all of us to be a part of his kingdom. If you see some pretty jewelry, then you'll remember the parable about the treasure and how Jesus told us to not worry about and store up things of this earth, because the most important and the most valuable thing we could ever grab onto is the kingdom of heaven. If you see some money, then you can remember the parable about the lost coin, about this woman that searched everywhere until she found her coin, because that's how important it was to her. And Jesus said that that is how much he cares about us. Jesus said that he came to seek and save the lost. Jesus cares about us so much that he will go to extreme lengths to find you and me. Jesus used a log to teach us about how we should live. Jesus said that we shouldn't judge other people for the mistakes that they make, because the reality is we make mistakes too, and our mistakes are like a log in our eye. Pretty obvious, but we keep looking for the little splinter or the little speck in somebody else's eye. We should ask God to help us with our logs. Oh no! If somebody gets hurt, you can remember the parable of the Good Samaritan and how God wants us to show love to others. It doesn't matter who they are or where they come from. God wants us to be filled with his love and to let that love come to the outside, and we can show God's love to the people around us. Money. If you see a wallet, you can remember the parable of the talents and how God has given you unique gifts and talents that he wants you to use to give him glory and to tell other people about how amazing he is. The fish. If you see a fish, then you'll remember that God wants me and you to choose him, to be like the good fish in the story. If somebody knocks on the door, then you'll remember the parable about the persistent neighbor that wouldn't give up until his friend answered the door. And that's how God wants us to be with prayer. He wants us to keep on seeking him, keep on asking him, and keep on knocking and just chatting to him. And if you see a plant outside, you can remember the parable about the vine and the branches and how Jesus is our source of life. And Jesus wants us to get closer to him, learn more about him, be more like him. Because if we are connected to Jesus, then we will have life and life in abundance. If we choose to live apart from Jesus, then things are not going to work the way they should. And so can you see, there are all these different items, all these different things that Jesus used to tell us more about him, more about his kingdom, more about how we should be. And so the king has spoken. Are you listening?